So recently I reported on a FromSoftware leaker that put out some pretty interesting information on what was happening with the Duskbloods. This is a brand new FromSoftware exclusive for the Nintendo Switch 2 that Nintendo and FromSoftware are working together to bring. Now, it is a Miyazaki game, and Nintendo is paying for this. Now, the history of this game, before I get into the core of the salt that is happening with people that are getting very angry that it's a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive or that it's multiplayer or FromSoftware is doing this, is that Nintendo went to them to create a game. Since Nintendo was not getting Dark Souls, they obviously weren't going to get Elden Ring on the Nintendo Switch 1, so Nintendo reached out to them in order to get something going. And they originally planned this game for the Nintendo Switch 1 back in 2019. They were starting to plan the game, but ultimately they were thinking maybe Nintendo Switch 1 isn't the best fit for this game. They moved it over to Nintendo Switch 2, or more like production started going on there. They've been working on this game apparently from the FromSoftware leaker, who's gotten a lot of things right, is pretty highly regarded when it came to Elden Ring leaks and other stuff. He stated that this is some of their best playtesting. The FromSoftware employees are happy about it, and it has a lot of innovative gameplay features that people are really going to like, or at least the developers there are playtesting and thinking that it could be some of their best. This article was put out by Go Nintendo, and it blew up online. Over 1.1 million views as of the time that I'm recording this video, and thousands of people commenting on it when it comes to the article that said, rumor, FromSoftware has spent more time honing the Duskbloods gameplay than any title in their history, and that caused a lot of uproar online. Now, I want to read some of the salt comments overall, but then also give you guys some actual reasoning on what is happening with this and just give my thoughts on it as someone who's not a Souls fan, but obviously I like the Nintendo Switch 2. I think it's a phenomenal system. I've been playing a ton of it. I did a big review after it came out. I'm going to do another 6-month review coming up here. So I've got a lot to say about this system. It's not perfect by any means. No system is, but I think it's actually really good. And the people that have picked it up at this point are enjoying it. But let's see what some people are saying when it comes to the Duskbloods and this article from Go Nintendo. And one says, all for it to be a Ishtendo exclusive PvP slop game. Thanks, guys. Well, it's also going to be PvE as well, or even PvEVP too, which we'll talk about that in just a bit. But I'm interested in seeing the exact type of way. Do you only play online? Will there be any events that you can just do by yourself and other things? Is it going to be just like Elden Ring Night Rain in a sense? I want to know how they structure the PvE and the PvP and how they put it all together overall. But I found that that comment was kind of funny. All right, the next comment was this: don't care, didn't ask, give me Dark Souls 4, Demon Souls 2, or Elden Ring 2, not some Switch 2 exclusive PvEVP extraction slop. Now, I don't know if it's an extraction game overall, but this game doesn't interfere with other games that you are going to get. This was something that they wanted to do, that Nintendo reached out for funding. FromSoftware has a pretty good base or a unit. This isn't their next, like, okay, here we go, Elden Ring 2 or Dark Souls 4 or something. They're probably working on stuff like that as well, because obviously they can't put all their chips into the bag of a Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. They've got multiple projects that they are going to be working on as a big development staff and team and funding from various different places. So they're always working on the next thing. So this game, the Duskbloods, isn't going to stop you from getting your Dark Souls 4 or getting your other games or whatever the case is overall. This was something that, once again, was planned originally for the Nintendo Switch 1. So clearly that wasn't going to stop you from getting whatever they're working on next, or Elden Ring, which, if they're talking about from 2019 and on, it wasn't going to stop Elden Ring or other games coming out. So it's the same thing here right now at this point. So I'm not sure why this person thinks that way, but hey, it's the internet. It is what it is. Next comment was also pretty funny, and it says, all that for it to be a Nintendo slop exclusive, or like Nintendo slop exclusive, I should say. So I'm not even sure what this means, but I've heard the word slop so much at this point. I think it's kind of losing its meaning when people are just saying slop over and over and over, to the point to where they can't even explain what the problem is. They have not played it. It's not even out, and there's good news on it. They're saying that it's actually going to be pretty solid, and it's slop already. So once again, I think the name slop is being overused at this point, and I would say at this point people are just kind of salty. This is a salt comment. I like this one though. This is a real salt comment when it comes down to it. So I do think that once again they did pay for this. This is not something that was going to happen and all of a sudden Nintendo came in and stole it from other platforms. This was something that Nintendo wanted and went to them to make when it comes down to it. So let's get into one more comment here that I found funny, and maybe some other comments too. Imagine wasting resources on a Soy Tendo Switch 2 exclusive. Now, and I think at this point, this person is so far, I would say, terminally online. They use so many different things that don't even make any sense at this point. Wasting resources. How are you wasting resources when they paid you to do this? And I know, once again, it's trolling and all that, but I just find it so funny. How are you wasting resources when they paid you to do something? They were paid to do it. So like, let's say you're a contractor, right? And you make things, and then somebody came and paid you a lot of money to make something. It's not a waste of your resources if you were paid a good amount of money to make it. So that's just weird. And I'm not sure where the soy comes from and all that. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on. Metroid Prime 4 is coming out. Metroid Prime 4 is pretty hardcore overall. You've got an arm cannon, you're blasting things. I mean, Hyrule Warriors, Age of Imprisonment, there's a lot of fighting in there. There's no soy going on here overall when it comes down to it. We drink only almond milk around these parts. So almond milk, very good for you. So that's what I'm going with. I'm going with some almond milk, no soy milk, no soy Nintendo, or I'm not sure what's going on with that. But either way, there was also that was said. Now, there were some other people that were saying, oh, well, it's not going to play well because it only has the power of a PlayStation 4 and other things like that, which is obviously not true. Nintendo Switch 2 is more powerful than a PlayStation 4, has more RAM than a PlayStation 4, and has already put out games that look better and run better than the PlayStation 4 counterparts, as we've seen with Street Fighter 6, and we've seen with Cyberpunk, and we've seen with many other games out there overall. So I'm not sure why people are even saying that. So it is what it is. Ever since Bobby Kotick said something like that in the email, people have taken that and ran with it. Then, of course, the Digital Foundry stuff, but tests have came out, the comparisons have came out, the games have came out, and even games like Star Wars Outlaws, that's not even on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And with the Nintendo Switch 2, that version actually running and looking as good, if not better in many areas, than the Xbox Series S version. This whole PlayStation 4 thing doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all because the PS4 does not have DLSS, does not have the modern architecture, does not have the amount of RAM, all this different good stuff that can make the Nintendo Switch 2 punch above its weight, and you can play it anywhere that you want as well. I think that's a benefit. So I get it for some people. Like, I'm not completely just like closing my ears and, you know, just shutting off what people are saying. Like, I get it. Prices are expensive. Having to buy a system or having to buy a system for one game and all that, you can't just play it on the systems that you want. It is what it is. But we've seen this before with Bloodborne. We saw this before with Demon Souls, the original, then Demon Souls remake as well. PlayStation has been the beneficiary of multiple FromSoftware exclusives. Bloodborne is still trapped on the PlayStation 4, so I think it's okay. I think it's okay at this point. I do know that there were some people that were upset about Bloodborne or upset about Demon Souls, but not really from what I remember overall. So I don't really think this is that big of a deal. I think that people are, maybe some people, are a little bit upset that they're not going to be able to play it on their system of choice or PC or whatever the case is. But this is what you do when it comes to competition. This is what you do when you want to try to build your system and get new people to play your games and, you know, lay off the soy, right? Lay off the soy and get something a bit more hardcore like almond milk. You're going to have to go out there and see if you can get games like this, especially if it's something new. You're not taking something away from another system. Like, let's just say this was Dark Souls 4, right? That was the name, and they announced it for Xbox and PlayStation. Then Nintendo came in and said, we're going to give you $1 billion to make it exclusive only to the Nintendo Switch 2. I can understand the hate from that, but this was something that once again was supposed to start with the Nintendo Switch 1, and they're paying for it as a separate thing. It's a brand new name. It's called the Duskbloods. It's not called Elden Ring 2 or whatever the case is, right? So I don't understand it from that standpoint. Something new that they're paying for, just like we saw with Sony when it comes to Demon Souls, just like we saw with Bloodborne. So I think we should give it a shot. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Souls fan out there, but when you're hearing stuff from a credible leaker stating that this is some of the best gameplay that FromSoftware developers have been testing for quite some time now at this point, and they're excited for it, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. I've purchased many FromSoftware games in the past, and I've had fun. I love the original Demon Souls. I played the heck out of that game, but it kind of wore on me after a while with Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Elden Ring and some of that. So we'll check out this one. I might get tired of this one too, or might not like it at all, because it's not a traditional single player type of experience from what we know. It's more online, so we'll see how they actually work this out. But once again, I'm interested. It provides a different type of game, a different, I would say, demographic. And I actually have seen a number of people say I'm going to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 for this game as well. So mission accomplished, I guess, for Nintendo when it comes to that. But what do you guys think when it comes to the Duskbloods and what is happening here? Some of the salt that we see from fans or from just people online, let me know in the comment section below. All right, before we get to the next topic, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, we're going to talk about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. It's getting a brand new update that's going to add new weapons, new sync attacks when it comes down to that, new battles, tougher enemies, and more bug fixes, plus new missions. It's all sorts of good stuff. Now, if you want to know more details on everything specifically that's being added, check out the link in the description. I'll have it for you guys. It might be considered some spoilers for people that aren't past a certain point, but what I will say is that I love the fact that they're adding new things to Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. Apparently, there's going to be another drop. I think they said 2 separate drops of free content are coming. This one's coming on November 27th, so if you haven't picked up Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, I highly recommend it. Now, I am 30 plus hours in, about 32 hours in, and I am having a blast. This is by far the best Warriors game that I have played. And I'm not big on Warriors games, and I usually only play the themed Warriors games that are after an IP that I like Fire Emblem or like Gundam, or there's a One Piece one, but I'm not really big on that one, or of course Legend of Zelda. But out of all the ones that I've played, and I have played some of the Samurai Warriors and other Dynasty Warriors games, this is the most fun themed Warriors game that I've played. The combos are fast-paced, they're brilliant. The game runs perfect overall. It looks nice too. It is such a good feeling to be able to pick up a Warriors game, have a bunch of enemies on screen, and not worry about that frame rate drawing to a crawl like you saw it do on the Nintendo Switch 1. So Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, I have to give the stamp of approval on it. I am having a blast, and it's even a little bit better than I thought it would be. I love the unique skills. That has been a great thing, and even seeing some of the side characters that aren't in the spotlight as much, which I've talked about before in previous videos or live streams where I discussed this, but I actually like having these side characters. They have unique fighting styles in this game, being able to do different things that Princess Zelda, the Mysterious Construct, or other characters can't do in the game, the normal main characters. So I really like that about it. I think that they took time to craft this combat and battle system, and each battle you play through, yes, you're fighting through, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of enemies and you're doing stuff, but there's a flow to this game that just feels right overall. You combine that with a great story, with the imprisoning war and what's happening there, giving you further context to the battles and what happened in The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It just creates a great experience overall, and I cannot recommend it enough. I know that it's a bit pricey for some people out there if you're not the biggest Warriors fan at a $70 price tag, so maybe you can wait for a discount. But if you're into The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, and Tears of the Kingdom, this one is a no-brainer overall. And I think that they even took that great combat system in Age of Calamity, despite the frame rate woes that that game did have on the Nintendo Switch 1. They even upgraded it more. It's even better than that one. And I loved the combat system in Age of Calamity. I think that it just feels snappy. It feels impactful. It feels good to play as different characters in this game. It's just a blast overall. Like I said, a little bit of repetitiveness with some of different side quests and so much stuff that you can do and so many different items to collect and all sorts of things. But when you start getting into the mix of it, especially if you put it on hard or very hard, I'm playing it on the hard difficulty, it makes you really use your skills, your abilities, level up, different characters, side quests, all sorts of stuff in this game, man. So I just highly recommend it. I think it's a blast to play through. So what do you guys think about Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment getting new content and potentially getting some more new content as well later down the line? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the final topic here, guys, we are going to discuss Nintendo's new initiative that we're seeing, because I did see people ask, Nintendo's doing all these in-store demos for things. I went to my Best Buy locally the other day and played Metroid Prime 4 Beyond a little bit early, and it was amazing. But they did this with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. They did this with Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World, although I'm not sure if you can play it before the launch of there, but I know that they had some events for different things. But overall, Nintendo is trying to actually do that. They're trying to get people into the store, playing the game, and then buying it or pre-ordering it. Like, that's the reason why they're not necessarily doing stuff where they just put the demo at home for people that kind of already have it. Well, you've already spent it. You know what to expect with that. So I think that they kind of want people to go out there to the stores and pick it up, especially in the first number of months of the Nintendo Switch 2 launch, where there is fierce competition right now, not necessarily from Xbox, but from PlayStation, and of course from people's just time and attention with mobile tablets and with PC and with just so many other things that people can spend their time on. So this was something that Nintendo actually talked about at an investor meeting recently, where they discussed that they wanted to have an emphasis on consumer touch points. So these are dedicated Nintendo spaces created in cooperation with retailers, and that's more ways to purchase digital games as well. So giving people the option, not just saying, okay, you have to buy the digital game through there, but actually having the codes or having different things that's easier to pick up in the store and then using that, because of course they get more money when you buy the game digitally, although I think a retailer will get a cut of that if you buy a card or if you buy a digital download from the stores and all of that. So I think that that's something that obviously it's a good idea to do that. There are so many people that stated that they went out and played Metroid Prime 4 and they were kind of on the fence about it beforehand, but when they felt how smooth and fun the game was to play for themselves on that screen in that environment, some people pre-ordered the game right there. Some people bought a Switch 2 right there. So I definitely think it's a good idea to do this and continue doing it. Now, it is possible that Nintendo will release a demo later down the line. They did that for Donkey Kong Bonanza. We did get a demo afterwards. They could do that with Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment after a little bit as well. So look out for that. It's not necessarily just because they do it in store, you're not going to get something on your system, but I think they want to create kind of like that FOMO experience where, man, you play this, it's something new, and then you want to pick up the system because it's like right there underneath you at my Best Buy. Like, you have the demo unit, then bam, the units are right there, and they got a bunch of them, you know, when it comes to Black Friday and holiday shopping season and all of that. What do you guys think about everything here? Let me know in the comment section below. But that's going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 and RPG videos, especially if you like compilation videos of the best Nintendo Switch 1 games. I got a video right here that you can watch it. So check that out, and we'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.